Tonight, the province's deaf community rallies pushing for better access to basic services.
There's a serious shortage of American Sign Language interpreters here in Newfoundland and Labrador. I'll tell you what it means to people in the deaf community in this province.
In talking about seniors and in visiting deaf senior citizens, and I can see the isolation in nursing homes and personal care homes.
Coming up later in the show.
Also, we are addressing the great injustice of having to go west to go east.
London calling. The St. John's International Airport scores a direct flight to Gatwick, why the airline says the competition is cutthroat.
Anytime you hear that there's jobs on the line, it's concerning.
A week-long shutdown at the Corner Brook Mill affecting hundreds of workers who worry there could be more shutdowns coming.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. Some members of the province's deaf community say they can't access essential services because there aren't enough people who can use and translate sign language. They rallied today asking the government to recruit and train more American Sign Language interpreters. Here and Now's Mark Quinn reports.
So we're asking government, it's their responsibility to help train and provide more interpreters. We need to hire and get more interpreters for Newfoundland and Labrador because your needs are important.
That's Ken Parsons' voice translating from American Sign Language. He's one of about half a dozen working ASL interpreters in this province. Deaf people here say there are far too few interpreters to serve the more than 600 people in Newfoundland and Labrador who communicate with American Sign Language.
I don't know what's involved in it. Well, I'm hoping that there's more interpreters. We need that for our access so that we can access it in our language. You know, I had people at my work who could sign, but not very well. You know, just a little bit here and there. So, you know what I mean? I was behind on all the news and didn't know what was happening many times. So isolation, that's something that deaf people live with.
Your ability to access services should be the same as mine, as a hearing and speaking individual. Simple as that, and that's what it comes down to.
Joy Philpott and Parsons were here with a group of about 50 people who gathered outside the Confederation building in St. John's. They're calling for change. They want the provincial government to increase access to ASL interpretation so all deaf people can get the services they need. Philpott said last year her boyfriend was hospitalized, and without an interpreter, she didn't know how seriously ill he'd become.
But it was a fair time after that I learned that he almost died, and I didn't know that at the time. And so it's news like that deaf people don't get the same as everybody else.
The Health and Community Services Minister was one of many politicians who spoke with the protesters. He promised to look for solutions.
We are absolutely prepared to look at additional funding for additional interpreters.
Osborne said he'll be meeting with members of the deaf community again later this month. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
A teacher at Carbonear Collegiate is accused of sexually assaulting a now former student 8 years ago. Police have charged 54-year-old Paul Thomas of Coley's Point with sexual assault, sexual exploitation, sexual interference, and luring a child. In a news release, the RCMP say they started an investigation this past August. They seized electronics from Thomas's home in October. He's due in court in December. Well, a popular transatlantic route has returned. Starting this spring, WestJet will fly direct from St. John's to Gatwick Airport in London, England, 3 times a week. The new flights come after government gave millions to the province's airports. Here Now's Janelle Kelly has the details.
With this expansion, we are reopening St. John's to the world and the world to St. John's. Also, we are addressing the great injustice of having to go west to go east.
The eastbound flight is back, starting May 1st and running until October 25th. Flights will depart St. John's just after midnight, landing in London at 9 a.m. One-way tickets range from about $400 to $750. The Premier's keeping the specifics of the new WestJet agreement under wraps. but says government put plans in place in this year's budget to better attract flights in and out of the province.
What we have as a government been focused on is unlocking routes, direct routes, new routes for travelers here in the province and people who want to come here. So as a part of that, we set aside $3.75 million for all airports to incentivize airlines to come here. But it's safe to say that the more this is used, the less we will pay.
Whether it's for work or play, Fury acknowledges how challenging it can be getting on and off the island, and says this flight could make a real difference when it comes to economic developments.
From a business development perspective, it's frustrating to get inbound requests of people who are interested in economic development and new businesses in Newfoundland and Labrador, and then they struggle to get here to take the meetings, to get the face-to-face with ministers or local businesses in order to grow their business footprint in Newfoundland and Labrador.
It's the first time there's been a direct route from YYT to Europe since 2019. For WestJet, the flight is part of focusing on leisure travel, and the company sees big opportunity here.
This is the biggest air access gap the province has. So right now our company's about bringing the flights that communities want the most.
According to WestJet, this London flight is just one of its plans for summer 2024. Gibbons says to expect more flight announcements in the new year. Janelle Kelly, CBC News, St. John's.
Corner Brook Pulp and Paper is shutting down for a week because of a lack in demand for newsprint. The move will affect about 300 workers there. The shutdown starts on Monday, and the mill's parent company, Kruger, says they're expecting to start back up a week later. Now, the operation is the last newsprint mill in the province. Kruger wouldn't do an interview on this, but in a statement, the company says there may be more shutdowns in the coming weeks, depending on the newsprint market. Forestry Minister Elvis Lovelace says there's been no talk yet of government money for the mill.
In the past, we've certainly supported, Corner Brook Pulp and Paper and the city of Corner Brook as well. At this point, we really don't know what I mean, but keeping in mind, we realize what's happening in the paper industry, and that's a reality. So we have to deal with it as a reality. The company has to deal with it as a reality, and that's certainly part of the discussions.
Now, the mill also went through a similar shutdown in 2019 when Kruger closed it for 2 weeks at Christmas, also because of a weak market. At that time, the company also cut 22 permanent jobs as a cost savings measure. Corner Brook Mayor Jim Parsons says there is some concern in the community.
We do get the jitters when there is something like this announced. I understand that the newsprint industry is undergoing a lot of uncertainty right now. There have been some negative demand forecasts, and when that happens, typically some producers change products or drop out of the newsprint business, and it again rebalances the supply and the demand, and things get stabilized once again. But until that happens, we get mills pausing like we're seeing now.
It was another chilly night last night. Our temperatures as we walked out the door this morning, fairly chilly, especially up across Labrador, minus 16 in Lab City this afternoon, or this morning, I should say, and those temperatures still into the minus double digits for the northern peninsula, minus single digits the story across the island. Now, we do have some warmer air moving in, so tonight won't be nearly as chilly, especially for those of you in Lab West, but those temperatures will continue to warm up as we head through to the weekend. Now, right now, we're sitting generally under a ridge of high pressure that is dominating the weather picture at the moment. We've got an area of low pressure to the south, another one to the north. This will be our weather maker. Generally, not very much happening, but over the next 24 hours, we will see some showers and flurries work their way in. But yes, right now, nothing happening other than some cloud cover around, but we will see those flurries move in for Lab West. Now, the next thing I am watching is an area of low pressure that will develop on Friday, head this way as we head into Saturday and eventually into Sunday. We'll talk about all of the details when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. A local physician and educator says the province needs all the help it can get to attract and keep medical professionals. We've been following the story out of Lewisporte, where a doctor says he and his family have been subject to racism. Well, a doctor and lecturer at Memorial's School of Medicine says should the family decide to leave, it would be a loss on many fronts.
It'd also be a blow to the community overall. Besides, one's work, they're also part of the community. They'll have, besides colleagues, they'll have friends, and their, children will have friends. And we do need all hands on deck when it comes to healthcare resources, particularly in rural areas of this province who have additional barriers with accessing healthcare.
Well, friends of that doctor and his family are speaking out, calling for a plan to address racism in schools. The province's anti-racism coalition is also calling for schools to put policies in place. Today, the Minister of Education is responding to the story.
We're aware of the situation that occurred in Lewisporte and would like to let those families know that we are thinking about them and we are supporting them, and we have supports in place in the school for those who may be feeling difficulties at this time. And as we continue to work and build on the education system here in Newfoundland and Labrador, we would like to emphatically state that there is no tolerance for racism. We condemn racism in any form in our education system in Newfoundland and Labrador. And as we move forward in building our curriculum, those are things that'll be on the forefront.
And the minister says a curriculum does exist about respect and cultural sensitivity, but that systemic change takes time. And we'll return to the House of Assembly in about 20 minutes for more on this story, and we'll speak more with Dr. Bolu Ogunyemi. Well, yesterday, the Seniors Advocate released a new report saying a third of the province's seniors can't afford to meet their basic needs, and as many as 60% go without food and medical supplies. PC leader Tony Wakeham calls those numbers alarming and says the province should act on the report's recommendations immediately.
That is a statistic that government should be taken seriously. And the recommendations of the Senior Advocate, they should have come out yesterday and said, you know what? We're going to implement those recommendations because they're the right thing to do. I've been talking for a long time about the need to index the benefits for seniors in this province. That was one of the recommendations that she made yesterday. Home care, access to home care, and affordability of a copay, and trying to find that. Basic stuff we all know.
Wakeham wants government to improve medical transportation programs and home care, but won't put a dollar figure on how much he thinks the province should spend on those improvements. Meanwhile, the Advocate's report dominated question period in the House of Assembly today. The province says a poverty reduction plan for seniors is in the works, and they'll release it in the next few months, but neither the Minister of Health nor the Minister for Seniors would say exactly when that will happen.
I think it's always safer not to put a date on it, but the work is nearing completion. It's underway. There is a focus on the programs and services that are income tested. For example, on the home support and community services programs that are provided to seniors as well.
We had to make sure that people realize we are working on something. It'll be announced in the next several months, according to what the Premier has said, and hopefully we'll be able to have more to say about it then.
Meantime, Minister Paul Pike says more help for seniors is coming, and he'll talk about that during an announcement tomorrow about affordable housing. Well, the federal and provincial governments say they'll spend a combined $25 million on the fishery. The money is to modernize equipment and improve quality, productivity, and sustainability in the seafood sector. It includes $6 million to upgrade the salmon processing system at the fish plant in Bay de Verde, and over $2 million to bring in a fresh seafood operation at the Gander Airport. There's also money to improve crab processing technology and to research the northern shrimp fishing areas.
So this is 147 projects now all throughout the province, and it speaks to marketing, it's technology, it's making sure that we get a better product, which means a better price for our fishers, so it's a good news day.
A huge wind to hydrogen developer has its sights set on Marystown. Everwind is in the early stages of developing a wind to hydrogen to ammonia mega project on the Burin Peninsula. Their plan would see the construction of up to 450 wind towers spread across the southern part of the peninsula. Right now, the company is testing the wind in the area. They need 2 years of data before deciding whether to move ahead with the project. If they do, the company believes it will bring hundreds of permanent jobs to the area.
Those jobs from an operating perspective are here forever, which makes this industry different than what this province has seen in the past, whether it's oil and gas or mining, where the resource gets depleted, and when the resource is depleted, people get laid off. There's no layoffs in projects like this. You start producing and you produce for 30 years and you rebuild the project at the end. So pretty unique opportunity to create employment around this region, and frankly, if people want to live in the same communities as their grandkids, the only way you're going to do that in rural Newfoundland is through a project like this.
Well, we've got temperatures pretty much right around where they have been for the past couple of days. We're looking at a warm-up, though, as we head towards the weekend. That's going to bring some wind and some rain to parts of the province. I'll break it all down for you coming up.
Ashley. It is nice to be back after being off for a little while. Had a family wedding that I traveled to. Went someplace tropical. I don't know if anyone will believe me because not exactly tanned here, but it was definitely a shock when I came back and felt the temperature because I was so used to the warmth and coming back to the freezing cold.
Yeah, it has been fairly chilly. In fact, well below where we should be sitting this time of year. We should be sitting between 5 and 7 degrees across the island, but we're only topping anywhere from 0 to about 3 degrees. Some areas in through central not even seeing 0. Gander topped out at -1 this afternoon. And those temperatures up across Labrador, that is right around where you should be sitting. Around -4 in Happy Valley Goose Bay today. Now you factor in that wind chill. There is certainly a bit of a wind chill, especially for Happy Valley Goose Bay, feeling more like -9 at the moment. And across the island, we're looking at temperatures anywhere into the minus single digits, but those wind chills are feeling more like the mid-minus single digits. So as we head through the night tonight, if you're planning on any outdoor activities, you're definitely going to want to bundle up. By the time we get into the midnight hour, we're talking about wind chills into the minus double digits, about -10 is what it will likely feel like in St. John's, and about -7 rather in Corner Brook. Now up across Labrador, you're looking at your temperatures tonight into the minus single digits, especially towards the coast, but you factor in those wind chills, it'll feel more like the minus teens. Now, as you head into tomorrow morning, similar as you're walking out the door, so make sure you're bundling up. Now, as far as tonight is concerned, or at least right now is concerned, there's not a whole lot happening. We are starting to see some of that cloud cover and snow eventually move in for Lab West, and that will continue to work its way east tonight towards Happy Valley Goose Bay by the time we get into the early morning hours tomorrow. Just the chance of flurries at this point, and not a whole lot happening across the island either. Nice quiet weather for the time being, which is nice because eventually we'll get into that point where we're going to see storm after storm after storm. But for now, we will keep the weather fairly quiet. We're looking at temperatures into the minus single digits for most of us. Through central, though, your temperatures will dip under clear skies tonight, anywhere from -9 to -11, especially in those low-lying areas, and much warmer tonight in Lab City. Only about -4, so your temperatures are actually going to continue to climb, but we're going to hang on to those minus double digits for both Cartwright and Happy Valley Goose Bay. And overall winds, not overly impressive tonight, anywhere from generally light to about 20 kilometers per hour. Now, as we head into tomorrow, we will see those flurries, light flurries, but still move a little bit further towards central Labrador as well as the southeast. And then the west coast, we will see increasing cloud as the day goes on, either showers or flurries, particularly flurries in the higher elevations. But other than that, you're looking at that move slowly east through the day. Eventually, we'll see that reach the Avalon by the time we get into the late evening or overnight hours tomorrow. So that will generally continue as we head into will end as we get into Friday morning. And then actually looking pretty nice to start your Friday, especially towards the west coast. We should see that sun peek out again. More flurries will move in for Lab West as the day goes on. Now, as far as snowfall amounts go, still talking anywhere between 5 to max 10 centimeters of snow through Lab West, and that will fall pretty much through Friday morning. Now, temperature-wise tomorrow, it will stay chilly. Still looking at daytime highs anywhere from about 0 to 5 degrees, and those winds again generally light. Now, other than that shower and flurry activity, we should actually see the sun peek out at times, at least through the first half of the day. And then up across Labrador, you're looking at your temperatures minus single digits or hovering around the 0 degree mark. But for the most part, these mild temperatures, these cooler temperatures across Labrador are going to stick around. But we are looking at a bit of a warm-up as we head towards the weekend. And the reason for that is an area of low pressure. So this is Saturday time frame, start to affect the maritime provinces by then. We're talking about warm-up, maybe 10, 11, 12 degrees, but this area of low pressure potentially bringing some significant wind to parts of the island, even up across Labrador. We could see some snow with this one as well, and that will continue as we head into Monday. So we'll talk about the long-range forecast in a little bit.
Thanks, Ashley. Lots of people talking about this one today. Come May 1st, WestJet is bringing back its direct flight to Europe. This time, it'll be an overnight route from St. John's to London's Gatwick Airport. The flight will run 3 times a week through October, and according to WestJet, flights like this one have provinces across the country in competition.
How did the province win you over?
Well, I mean,
what do you mean, how do we win them over?
look, a strong business case, but I think the unity of purpose here in the province really stands out, right? I can't stress enough how competitive this industry is. Every premier, every mayor, every airport is fighting for our airplanes to be at their airports, and every community has needs. I promise you, I've never been to a community where they've said, we have everything we need, we're good, right? Everyone wants everything. So I think the combination of the unity of purpose, the leadership of Dennis and the airport and the premier and the government, everyone was exactly on the same page about what was needed. And perhaps also importantly is that this investment be a sustainable and durable one. We have had ups and downs here, it's no secret, and this one has to work, and everyone has to be in it to succeed, and I think you saw that today.
Speaking of other cities, did WestJet not just cut service to Toronto, Halifax, and Vancouver, I think, earlier this year, and how will they view this?
No, we haven't done that. No, what we are not doing anymore, and what we've scaled back, is a lot of our intra-eastern connectivity. So in the triangle between Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa, we are the 3rd largest carrier, and those routes are not profitable for us. That is not what WestJet is about. WestJet is about leisure travel, so our entire plan is about bringing more of what Canadians love about us to the market. So yes, we don't fly as much as we used to between Toronto and Montreal, but that's not what Canadians love most about us. What they love most about us is these kinds of entrepreneurial flights. This flight to Gatwick, the flights to the United States, our Calgary, Japan flights. This is the innovation that we're bringing to the market. So we call it a transition. We don't call it abandoning anywhere, but we are growing everywhere in Canada. That's our commitment.
Well, today obviously is a big milestone for the community and for the airport authority. We do have to continue that journey though, and of course the airport has had connectivity in the past, not only transatlantic to Europe, we've also had cross-border connectivity into New York, and as well we have intention to keep building on that air access, rebuilding to points we may have been in the past, but growing it from there. We hear it from a lot of constituencies in the province, whether it's industry, tourism, and the broader community, that people want access and they want direct non-stop service, and that's the big priority that we place on it with our partners from the provincial government and airlines like WestJet, which we're quite thankful are here today.
A physician and educator in St. John says we need all hands on deck when it comes to keeping medical personnel in this province. We've been following the story out of Lewisporte, where a doctor says he and his family have been subject to racism, even assault. Last week, a doctor in that community took to social media saying his daughter is facing racism, bullying, and discrimination, and most recently, an alleged physical assault at her school. The father of the accused disputes that racism played a part in this, but it's all prompted the doctor, who moved here from Egypt, to question whether he and his family will stay on. Joining me now to talk more about this is Dr. Bolu Ogunyemi, a physician and lecturer at Memorial's School of Medicine. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Dr. Ogunyemi, what was your reaction when you heard about this incident in Lewisporte?
You know what? I was concerned. I was concerned for the victim. I was concerned for the family, as well as those that support the family. It's always unfortunate when this type of incident occurs. And I do want to note that this event is not specific to rural locations. It's not specific to Newfoundland and Labrador. Indeed, I think it's very common in many locations, especially many multicultural locations. So it is unfortunate, but again, it's not unique to this particular location.
Mm-hmm. Now, both parents of the victim of the alleged assault are family doctors, and the father has said that this is enough to cause him to consider just picking up his practice and leaving town, which of course would be a blow to the patients in the area. What did you think when you heard about that?
So I agree that it'll be a major loss in many different ways. And as you mentioned in the intro, we do need all hands on deck when it comes to healthcare resources, particularly in rural areas of this province who have additional barriers with accessing healthcare. I think this could be very significant.
We heard yesterday from the province's anti-racism coalition about the need for a strategy in schools to combat racism. And that group wants teachers to have a plan in place for when a student or parent is confronted with racism. And you're an educator. How important is it to have clear policies in place when it comes to handling complex, sensitive situations like this?
It is important. I do work at the national level as well as with the Faculty of Medicine, as you referenced, with teaching anti-racism, social accountability. And what we're learning is that besides teaching the students, so in this case, it would be students in elementary, secondary school, it's also important to teach the teachers, so whether it's faculty members that I do in various roles, or teachers, principals, administrators at a school. It's important to teach people that have the supervisory capacity as well. Because while the teachers know the material that they're teaching, one doesn't inherently know how to navigate these situations, and not everyone is going to have the lived experience, right? So I do think it's crucial to teach the teachers as well.
We reference the idea of all hands on deck, and of course, doctor recruitment is a major challenge in this province right now. Do you worry about the setbacks a story like this one might cause for doctors considering coming to this province?
I'm glad you brought that up. So first, I want to note that Newfoundland and Labrador, as well as Saskatchewan, are the two provinces in Canada with the highest proportion of physicians that are internationally trained. So this type of issue would propose a outsized issue potentially for the two provinces. I do think that when folks consider where to, not just where to practice, but also where to live, where to raise a family, besides work factors, they'll also consider somewhere that they feel safe, both physically and culturally safe, and somewhere where folks can bring their entire selves, right? Whether it's work or play, learning, and other activities. So I think, when you put everything together, this, certainly it makes sense, I think, for folks to reevaluate their decision to work in the community after this. And I think particularly because Dr. Mbarak mentioned this had been going on for some years, so it wasn't just the incident relatively recently, but this had been going on for 2 years that he mentioned. So certainly it's not surprising that this is being reconsidered.
We don't have much time left, but I was just wondering, you were born in Nigeria, you moved to Canada at a young age, you've been in this province for a long time. What has your experience been like here?
My experience has been, very different from the one that's been described. I've had a great childhood growing up here. I have trained for periods in BC and in Ontario, and I always come back to St. John's. This province is my home. I also now spend quite a bit of time in Labrador. I'm going in a couple of weeks to do a clinic there. So, I've had, wonderful experience growing up. I do understand not everyone shares my experience, which is unfortunate. And, as sometimes smaller areas can have different realities than larger centers. Although, to be fair, St. John's wasn't nearly as diverse in the 90s or as it was today. But I think it's important to take incidents like this and see it as a learning opportunity. It is an opportunity for everyone to do the right work. I'm glad you referenced administrators at school, and just folks in the community overall, and parents, teaching their children about how to act when they witness this happen.
All right, well, Dr. Bolu Ogunyemi, thank you so much for your thoughts on this. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Well, the Anti-Racism Coalition says the Department of Education hasn't implemented any of its recommendations for an anti-racism curriculum in schools. The group says it shared recommendations for an overhaul almost 2 years ago. Well, today, the Minister of Education responded. She says a curriculum does exist, one that can be adapted as needed.
It's an adaptive curriculum, so teachers can take emerging trends or things that they feel are pressing in their particular classrooms to address any of those issues up front. We have tenets like sensitivities, cultural sensitivity, respect for yourself and for others, all built into our curriculum plan. And the recommendations that came from the coalition were proposed a very systemic change. So as we move forward and continue to build and adapt our curriculum here in the province, that's going to take time. A systemic change takes time. So as we continue to build our curriculum, those will be the things that we aim to introduce as fundamental principles for our curriculum.
Are you committing to picking up on any of those changes that they've requested?
As part of our ongoing commitment to curriculum development, we always review the things that we present to our students, and as best evidence comes forward, we build it in. And the world around us is changing, and it's a time where there has to be more emphasis placed on anti-racism. So as we build our curriculum moving forward, that'll be something that is at the forefront.
crippling grocery bills, unaffordable rent, gas tanks that are always half empty. We're in a cost of living crisis, and it's taking a toll on families, students, and average earners. Join us for a new series as we meet people in this province juggling multiple jobs to make ends meet, burning long hours just to cover the basics. The Grind airs Mondays on Here and Now.
Many businesses are still struggling to recover since the pandemic, and now they're about to face even more financial pressure as the deadline approaches to repay federal government-backed pandemic loans. Nicole Williams explains.
As the holiday season approaches, business is picking up.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. But like, what's your budget?
Good news for the many shops and restaurants in Ottawa, some who say it hasn't been the same since the pandemic.
The outlook is pretty bleak. Nationwide, you're looking at 50% of businesses are operating either at a loss or just breaking even.
A bleak outlook after a bleak few years because of the pandemic, which saw nearly 900,000 small businesses and nonprofits across the country tap into the Canada Emergency Business Account, or CEBA, an interest-free loan introduced in April 2020 to help businesses during the height of the pandemic. Each received up to $60,000, with a total of $49 billion paid out.
It was a lifeline at the time. It didn't cover a lot of our expenses, but it did help for sure.
Businesses originally had until the end of this year to pay the money back, and if they did, the federal government would forgive up to $20,000 of the loan. But pandemic recovery has been slow, and many asked for more time. The federal government did push back the deadline, but only by 3 weeks.
It's just math. You can't afford it.
This accountant says that's not enough time. Many of his clients took the loan and are still struggling. He argues in some cases, loans should be forgiven entirely.
This thing is not fair to pay right away or you lose 20 grand. And also it is also not fair because interest rate went up.
More than 13,000 people have signed a petition agreeing with him, asking that the government consider the impacts to small businesses.
Going to be a choice between paying that off and then paying off taxes or paying payroll.
The federal government says the deadlines are final and that the flexibility already shown to businesses is enough. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Ottawa.
Well, home sales in Canada have slowed again. The latest figures from the Canadian Real Estate Association show October sales dropped 5.6% compared to September. Both buyers and sellers are stepping away from the market, according to the association. The number of newly listed homes in October slipped 2.3% from the previous month. The association's home price index dipped almost 1% month to month. The national average price of a home has gone up almost 2%, just shy of $657,000. And the number of sales, well, that's up by less than 1% from last year. The association says uncertainty over interest rates will likely weigh on the market until next spring at the earliest. And staying with housing and affordability, a joint venture in Montreal is finding a way to reduce waste and save homeowners some money. It's a lot like the Habitat for Humanity Restore model, which exists here in St. John's, encouraging customers to consider reusing construction materials. The CBC's Kwabena Odora dropped by to do some shopping.
From doorknobs to bathtubs to light fixtures, you can find all you need for a home renovation at the new Reco store.
People can come here in our brand new center and feel as comfortable to shop and identify products they like, just like they would do in a regular renovation center.
The items are donated from homeowners, contractors, and businesses.
People will come here and they would be glad to give a second life to these items.
With the cost of renovation materials rising, the store offers an economical option. It's a greener option too, helping reduce and reuse construction waste.
Construction architecture is responsible for more or less 30% of greenhouse gases, of trash, and of the resources we extract.
In return for a donation, you will get a receipt for a charitable donation.
When someone wants to make a donation, so we process that through communications, email, phone, pictures, and we have people who are specialized in appraising, in knowing the market, what sells, what does not.
The items are all sold tax-free. The proceeds will fund community projects through Architects Without Borders Quebec.
We have a mission to help the poor, to help the vulnerable communities.
The store will be open 5 days a week for now, and eventually every day of the week. If things go well with this store, the goal is to open a network of recos across Quebec. Cubino Duro, CBC News, Montreal.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau arrived in San Francisco today for a 3-day meeting of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Group, or APEC, as it's also known. The Prime Minister's main goals at the summit include deeper economic collaboration with APEC nations to foster middle-class growth and healthy regional competition, and collaboration on the fight against climate change.
when they were buried here. How old were they?
Uncovering the history of a little-known cemetery in Gambell. Watch Remembering the Mi'kmaq, Sunday at 11:30 and Monday at 7.
Well, you won't get there using the direct WestJet flight. That doesn't start until May, but London's Royal Botanic Gardens is lighting up for the holidays. The gardens at Kew are sparkling. You'll find illuminated flowers that are more than 3 meters high. And while it's memorable all on its own, it's apparently inspirational too. The team at Kew Gardens says almost every year there's a wedding proposal. Every year, a large pine tree from Nova Scotia makes its way south. It's a gift from that province to the city of Boston, and it's a long-standing thank you to the U.S. city, which sent aid and medical help after the Halifax explosion. The CBC's Brett Ruskin was there today when this year's tree was cut down.
Nova Scotia's Tree for Boston is all set to start its journey down south to Boston. So this morning the chainsaw was fired up to get this tree cut down. This is in Stewiacke, Nova Scotia, the spot this year that was selected, the tree that was selected this year amongst homeowners from across the province that advocate, that apply to have their tree featured and cut down and sent as a gift to the people of Boston. Again, this is an annual tradition that happens as a way to say thank you to people of Boston more than 100 years ago in response to the Halifax explosion in 1917. The two ships that collided in the harbor exploded, leveled most of the north end of Halifax, killing nearly 2,000 people. Within hours of hearing about the explosion, Boston was sending nurses and doctors and supplies to Halifax as a way to support after the disaster. And so to say thanks, the tree is cut down every year and sent off to Boston. So you can see the tree behind me here on a truck ready to go. It's going a bit of a tour over the next number of days. It'll be featured in a parade snaking through the streets of downtown Halifax this weekend before heading down to Boston and being lit up on November 30th in a ceremony there. Brett Ruskin, CBC News, Stewiacke, Nova Scotia.
Yep. It is time to start thinking about Christmas. I'm getting the question, have you started your Christmas shopping yet?
Yeah, 6 weeks, 7 weeks.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, just trying to get my head wrapped around it. Have you started your Christmas shopping yet?
I have one gift.
I'm thinking about starting my Christmas shopping now.
Yeah, I'll get there. I'm always that last minute, like the 24th, still out shopping.
Yeah.
Bad. This year, every year I say I'm not going to be, and every year I am.
I know, me too.
Anyway.
Okay, so the weather, long range. I guess we're looking into the weekend. Some messy weather coming.
Yeah, it looks like it. So as we get into Friday, we'll see a bit of a, it's been quiet all week. Let's take a look at what's happening. So Thursday evening, that little trough will move through, and then there's really not a whole lot for Friday morning. We've got that area of low pressure to the north there that'll bring a little bit more activity up across Labrador in the way of potentially some showers or even flurries for the west. Northern portions will see some flurries, but other than that, not a whole lot happening through the day on Friday. That will move through fairly quickly. We're talking about daytime highs anywhere from 1 to 5 degrees above zero. And then for the island as well, 3 to about 7 degrees. Like I said earlier, 5 to 7 is where we should be sitting for this time of year. But if we jump ahead to the evening hours on Friday and then into Saturday, once that little trough moves through, which will bring again that chance of some showers right along with it, our next weather maker is going to start to move in. And this one will bring some windy weather to parts of Nova Scotia as we head through Saturday evening. And then out ahead of that, we've got this southerly flow, which is going to bring those temperatures up as well. Eventually, we will see that rain move in later on in the day, but our daytime highs for most of the island anyway should be anywhere from about 10 to 13 degrees through the day. Northern Peninsula, you're going to stay in the single digits. Below zero for those of you in Lab West, but the rest of Labrador will sit somewhere between 2 and about 5 degrees through the day on Saturday. Now, the meat and potatoes of the storm will move in as we head into Sunday, but we are talking about some windy conditions. Keep in mind, this is still a few days away, so things can change. But we are looking at those winds gusting anywhere from about 60 to 80 kilometers per hour through the day on Saturday. As the area of low pressure moves in, we could be talking about winds gusting anywhere from 80 to as high as 120 kilometers per hour in some areas. So definitely a system that we need to keep an eye on through the day on Sunday. And then eventually that will move further east, but we're still talking about those winds early Sunday morning as well before they start to ease off by the time we get into Monday. Now, the long-range forecast after that showing a big drop in temperatures once that area of low pressure goes through. Clearing out, though, for the most part, but down to about 0, maybe -2 in western Newfoundland, where we're looking at those shower potential or the flurry potential on Monday. And then for eastern Labrador, the temperatures will start to drop below 0 for Sunday and Monday. And then for western Labrador, your temperatures will sit between -5 and -7 through the day. Now, our weather photo of the day was a nice sunny day in Norris Point. This is a photo of Bombay there, and Marie sent us this lovely shot. Thank you so much for that. If you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, you can send them to my Facebook page, but the best place to do that is to email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
You can see the snow there on the hills in the background.
Yeah, taking a look at the upper level satellite today. You could see, because we finally saw some clear skies, I could see that snow on the west coast, so it's definitely here.
All right.
See how long it stays. That rain will do a number on it, though.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, it's that time of year. Well, that's it for us on this Wednesday evening. Losing track of time when you're off for a while. It's like, what day of the week is it again? Okay, it's Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you have a great night.
Good night.